For the first half hour of the show, thereabouts, we do have a guest that we'll be talking with, speaking to for the first few minutes of the show. Joining us all the way from Barbados, we have with us Jenny Hilan. She is currently the Vice President of Strategic Communications, Global Events and Stakeholder Engagement for the Caribbean Israel Leadership Coalition, an NGO of the Caribbean Israel Group, headquartered in Barbados. She helps to manage the portfolio of its Caribbean operations. She also serves as the capacity of Group Director, Public Relations and Communications for the Caribbean Israel Venture Services and Caribbean Israel Finance, the project and financing arm of the group. Ms. Hilan has been a public relations and marketing communications specialist for over 15 years. She holds a master's degree in global marketing and international sales from Edinburgh Napier University in Scotland, and a diploma in marketing, advertising, and public relations from the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill. She has also completed courses in project management with the Inter-American Development Bank, marketing and general management for small businesses with the Barbados Institute of Management and Productivity. We have Ms. Hilan on the line. Good afternoon, Ms. Hilan.
Good afternoon, Andre. It's really great to be here, to be with you as your guest, and good afternoon to the people of St. Kitts.
All right. First of all, Ms. Hilan, if you could just tell us what is the Caribbean Israel Leadership Coalition, and then we can go from there to speak about one of your major projects that is poised to be groundbreaking across the Caribbean.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Well, the Caribbean Israel Leadership Coalition, as you stated in your opening, is the NGO arm of the Caribbean Israel Group, which was established in 2017 by His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Andre Thomas to facilitate what we call our acronym HAPET, which is Humanitarian Relief, Activism, Philanthropy, Empowerment Conferences, Training, and Scholarships. And this organization was developed with respect to our vision and our purpose, which is to partner with Israeli expertise, technology, and investment to bring sustainable development for the Caribbean. And our vision is to see the region of the Caribbean accelerating in its economic development through the integration of Israeli expertise, technology, and investment. And our mission is to empower governments and the private sector to partner with Israeli expertise, technology, and investment to bring sustainable development for the Caribbean. And our strategy really is to host economic forums, trade and technology conferences and events in USA and the Caribbean through our network of national representatives. We have representatives across the Caribbean represented through our Economic Diplomacy Council and our respective national representatives from varying Caribbean nations across the region. And as I said, to introduce Israeli technology solutions to the Caribbean. So overall, that is what we do, who we are. We drive and facilitate the use of groundbreaking Israeli innovation. We've got a number of projects happening simultaneously across the Caribbean. And I'm here to speak of a very critical and important initiative project that we are in partnership with the Israeli government through their leading research and development agri-innovative technology arm, the Volcani Institute in Israel. And so I'm pretty much here to speak to that initiative, but that is to just give you a brief introduction as to who we are, what we do, and what our aims are across the Caribbean.
Before we get to the project, I guess one of the questions some people will ask, why Israel? People would say, well, America is closer to us and we could probably gain a lot from America as well. So why Israel?
Well, Dr. Thomas, he is an ambassador. He is also a bishop here in Barbados. He leads one of the leading ministerial organizations, churches here in Barbados. And you can well imagine through his status as, if you want to call it clergy, the initiative, obviously, with respect to how we believe, what we believe with respect to Israel, the initiative was birthed out of connections and relationships with those partners in Israel. And he sought to based on the network and the availability of those in Israel, they saw an opportunity and a synergy to bring, and you know that Israel is one of the leading countries in the world when it comes to innovation. When you talk about patents and so on, they lead in that area. So obviously, we looked at the strategic opportunities that can be, brought to bear from Israel in the Caribbean, and on that basis, that is where the initial development was initiated, and that's how we got started in our relationship with the Israeli government and many organizations who are seeking to bring innovation to the Caribbean.
Okay. Now, you have a major project that you're working on, which you're going to tell us about, where the groundbreaking technology from Israel is going to be used and applied to agriculture, and it's going to benefit countries across the Caribbean. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, absolutely. With respect to agriculture, we, as you can see, what is happening across the world, and in respect of Caribbean nations who are very dependent on tourism for the sustainability of our individual nations, has been pretty much decimated. And we have a prime opportunity across the Caribbean to really pivot and turn our attention to that which has always been with us, and that is agriculture. And we know that for many years, because of the issue relative to our colonial past, people see agriculture as going back to, a slave mentality. But the world has changed. Technology we are right smack in technology. And we believe that agriculture in its new, how it's presented with respect to innovation and technology, would be avenue from which our young people, even our existing farmers, can learn more as to the innovation and increased crop production across the Caribbean. And very importantly, as we look at the forecast and what's happening globally, we have sought to be proactive to mitigate the expectation of issues within the supply chain in respect of food security within the Caribbean. And if you're following the news and trend, we definitely need to look at import substitution and our need to preserve the flow of foreign exchange is also a driving force in refocusing Caribbean nations towards agriculture. And again, if you're following the trends, you would be aware that Bill Gates, who got his start in technology, is now the leading owner of private farmland in the United States of America. And he also controls a very leading high percentage of the seed and distribution. And so if someone who has started within the technology is turning his attention to agriculture, then we cannot be caught napping, because we have, when it comes to, I'm not an agriculturist, but if you call it topology or different consistency with respect to our soil and so on, we are poised to ensure, first of all, that our Caribbean nations there's a firewall against what is coming down the pipeline. And it's critical, and it's very important for our governments, our leaders, those in the ministries of agriculture, in the agricultural departments of the University of the West Indies, those who are leading institutions to pivot forthwith to ensure that what we have, it is said in Barbados, it said that we don't have any natural resources, but we have agriculture. And if we turn our attention to ensuring that which we have, that we utilize it and maximize it, we can begin, if there is a proactive visionary in charge of those who make decisions and make policies, will ensure that the people of the Caribbean, and by extension their families, are protected against what is coming down the pipeline.
Now, this project, how quickly is it going to be rolled out? And of course, here in St. Kitts Nevis, I also need to ask you, and maybe this is a separate question altogether, how involved is St. Kitts Nevis in as part of the coalition?
Yes, we do have a representative in St. Kitts, and I believe that individual is part of our Economic Diplomacy Council. And all of our reps are obviously focused on ensuring that this project is well established and communicated within their respective Caribbean islands. However, this program has already been rolled out across the Caribbean, and with Volcani Institute, the NGO arm, which is the Volcani International Partnerships, have offered 1,000 scholarships for the certificate in smart farming, Caribbean-wide, for farmers, agripreneurs, agri-investors to access and have critical information with respect to innovation and agri-tech ecosystems and so on, to ensure that farmers are up to date in the best practices and knowledge with respect to agriculture. So it's rolling out on the February the 24th. And we have already, the response, Andre, has been so tremendous, exponential, that it starts February 24th, and today is February 11th, and we've already met the 1,000 caption for persons. The response has been tremendous. So what Caribbean Israel Leadership Coalition and our partner who is providing the training, we have decided to increase the capacity to 3,000 farmers across the Caribbean so that we can ensure, at least in this first rollout, that we have a wide caption of farmers and the stakeholders that I just mentioned across the Caribbean represented at this webinar, which is going to be done through a webinar series, and all training materials would be provided. If you permit me, I can tell you a number of things that will be covered.
Yes, go ahead.
In this training. So we're looking at open field production, greenhouse, net house, and vertical production, crop protection, post-harvest, animal husbandry, robotics, irrigation, and that is all within smart farming. Let me just pull up so I can give you a rundown of the areas, so to ensure that your listeners appreciate what is being offered. So participants can expect to benefit from a combination of the topics: a general introduction to smart farming, agricultural robotics, smart farming for irrigation and water management, smart farming in greenhouses, smart farming and vertical farming, smart farming for post-harvest crop management, smart farming for crop protection, for livestock, for open fields, for orchards, food traceability, including blockchain and its applications for improved food quality and safety. Now, we know that agriculture has always been what they call a back-breaking exercise. You can be in your home and use the technology to set your irrigation, monitor the expected crop output as the specific crops are growing. And you can get more information on this. I'm going to give you the links and so on to share with your listeners and those who are listening who want to ensure that they don't miss this first training that Volcani Institute of Volcani International Partnerships, in collaboration with the Israeli government and Caribbean Israel Leadership Coalition, who represents the Israeli government. We don't want our farmers to miss this opportunity, and students as well. We hope that our students who are interested in agriculture also be part of this, because they need to have this information to ensure that it is carried on and it's built upon.
Well, I guess the next question would be how persons listening right now, there are farmers who are probably listening, and as you rightfully pointed out, students as well who are listening, how can they be part of it? How can they apply to be a part of this session?
Absolutely. You can go on our website, CaribbeanIsraelCoalition.org, CaribbeanIsraelCoalition.org, and you'll see a drop-down link saying events. And once you click on that events, you're going to see a message from His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Andre Thomas about the webinar series, when it's starting. It's going to be held over from February 24th to March 17th, which is 4 days. And you can click on the link and register for free and be a part of this very necessary and critical training from the leading experts. And in Israel, which was just desert land, they turned that area into one of, if not the most fertile and supplying the supply chain across the world. So you want your listeners, those of you who are listening, to go on and register and make sure that you're a part of this groundbreaking initiative.
Let me ask, in light of that, when all is said and done, though, after the training would have been conducted, will there be any assistance provided to these countries and the participants who would have been a part of the course in terms of applying the technology that they would have garnered, the knowledge that they have garnered from the workshops, to apply it to actual circumstances where they can actually improve their crop outputs?
Absolutely, Andre. The relationship that we have with Volcani International Partnership in our talks, that was one of the things that we spoke to, because what is the point of doing training and don't have the necessary follow through to ensure that the vision that we have for the Caribbean is facilitated? So I can say, without calling the countries of the other Caribbean nations, that the Bahamas, because we've launched this initiative in the Bahamas with the Honorable Michael Pintard, who is the Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources. We launched in the Bahamas, and so I can speak to the Bahamas. Very innovative, visionary leader there in the Bahamas, and they've just launched the Agri-Village, which is a project being facilitated as well by Volcani International Partnerships. And in one of my meeting discussions, we want to ensure that each Caribbean nation who's interested in turning their attention, I know that one Caribbean nation that we're speaking to has turned their attention to agriculture. The government, not the subsidiaries or the statutory organizations, that particular government. So you see that they're very serious about diversifying their economy, and they are deciding that agriculture is where it is. It is a recession-proof industry sector, and a visionary leader who is proactive will ensure that they also turn their attention to agriculture. Now, to specifically answer your question, the individuals, the agro innovators in Israel are willing to come to the Caribbean, and specifically, we have different soil textures and what have you, and each soil consistency, if you will be different from Barbados, different to St. Kitts, and it can determine which of the best crops can be produced within your islands. For example, if let's say tomatoes grow better in St. Kitts than Barbados, it would be wise to focus more on producing tomatoes. And here's the thing. The CARICOM issues with us trying to come together, I believe that agriculture is one of the avenues that can bring CARICOM together as we trade among ourselves. And with the help of the Volcani Institute, it is critical to ensure that we utilize their know-how, their knowledge, and expand on what we already know but to ensure that we do it in a way that is beneficial to both our economies and at the end of the day, to our tables in our homes. And we know that we import a lot of low grade fruits and vegetables from, USA or where have you. And we have the consistency of soil that we can produce high potency, nutritious, nutrient-full vegetables and fruits not only for our economies, but to sustain our health as well and ensure that we are eating well. And so we also had a one-day introduction in vertical farming that happened a couple of days ago with another organization in Israel, company in Israel who's into vertical farming and vertical, the name is eluding me right now, but for smart cities. Countries are turning their cities into, innovative agriculture and what have you, growing things from their rooftops and so on. So, we need to be part of this, what is happening. And so, yes, our partners are willing to ensure that what our farmers, our investors, our agripreneurs, all of the knowledge that they would have attained at this training, to ensure that they capitalize on it for future reference. And they're willing to come to the Caribbean islands to offer additional training as when this COVID-19 situation is under control. We hope to be able to invite our partners to come to the individual Caribbean nations and continue the training and process and hands-on training for our agricultural stakeholders.
All right. Well, before we let you go, I want you to just recap again how persons can be part of this exercise, how they can apply, how they can be registered, and get ready for it, especially for farmers and interested persons here in St. Kitts Nevis.
Absolutely. Yeah. So our website is CaribbeanIsraelCoalition.org, and you can just click on the events. You're going to see a little drop down, and it's going to take you directly to the webinars. It's going to take you, you're going to see a PDF there, and on the bottom it says click here for registration. You can access the registration and make sure that you are part of this groundbreaking initiative between the government of Israel with their R&D Institute, Volcani Institute, the NGO arm, Volcani International Partnerships, and Caribbean Israel Leadership Coalition. We are also on YouTube. You can watch the videos of the briefings of the Minister of Agriculture from the Bahamas and interviews with Dr. Thomas, which will give you a little more insight as they expand on the future of agriculture across the Caribbean.
All right, Ms. Hilan, thank you very much for being on the show today. And we certainly want to have a representative, maybe Dr. Thomas, from the coalition to come on board and to come on the show and to give us some more. Well, he's given me assurance that he would love to be on the show to talk more about what they're doing in the region. Before I let you go, though, I do want to get this. In terms of the work you've already done across the Caribbean, if you could just shed some light on some of the projects or some of the things that you'd have already done with members of the coalition across the region, and then we'll wrap up the interview for today.
Okay, so what I'll do is, because I don't want to speak ahead of myself, because we prefer in terms of some of the major projects that we're doing that are coming down the pipeline, that the government themselves the reason why I was able to mention the Bahamas is because they had their press conference and it's public money.
Right.
But there's some other major things coming down the pipeline. But if you go on our project business website, Caribbean Israel Venture Services, Inc., that will give you a very wide understanding of what we do and the projects that we are involved in. We're involved in mining, water. We are currently building homes as well, major things. So I would invite you and your listeners to go on Caribbean Israel Venture Services Inc., as well as Caribbean Israel Finance, because we finance major projects in excess of the minimum is, I think, $4 million if you have a project that you need financing for, there is a cap that we don't go below. So your listeners can go and take a look at our website, Caribbean Israel Finance, and see how to submit projects that you may have. The process in submitting those projects for financing for it could be even agriculture. So so just go on. It's major things that we're doing, and we are here to ensure the economic sustainability and development of Caribbean nations.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Hilan. Jenny Hilan is the Vice President of Strategic Communications, Global Events, and Stakeholder Engagement for the Caribbean Israel Leadership Coalition, which is an NGO of the Caribbean Israel Group, headquartered in Barbados. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.